So anytime we need to simplify, right, we're going to use these 4 steps. Parentheses first, take care of the parentheses, right? We have rules for parentheses. If it has parentheses, exponent has parentheses, either we're going to use rule number 2, rule number 6, or rule number 7, right? That's the first thing we got to do. And then after that, once we take care of that, then negatives, right? Negatives and zeros, if it has a negative exponent, right? Rule number 3 and 4, right? 0 exponent, anything to the 0 power is a 1. And if it has a negative, either it moves up or moves down. Okay. Combine or cancel out. If they have the same base, like number 1 and number 5, same base, we either add their exponents or subtract their exponents, right? And then the last thing is reduce or simplify. Okay, so let's get started. Number 1. So we're going to simplify. Anytime it says simplify, we use these steps, the steps we just talked about. Our answer can only have positive exponents. Okay, so if we have exponents, they got to be positives. Well, rule or step number 2, we take care of that. Okay, so parentheses. Everything on the parentheses, everything on the inside going to get a 5/2 power, right? So what is on the inside? Well, we have 9, x to the negative 4, and y squared, right? We have 3 things. Each of those is going to get a power, all right? So it's going to be 9 to the 5/2 power, x to the negative 4 to the 5/2 power, y squared to the 5/2 power. Okay. We still have parentheses, though. We still have parentheses. So now I have parentheses here and here. So what am I going to do with the exponents to get rid of the parentheses? Multiply. Yep, right here, rule number 2. Multiply. We got a power to a power. So when we multiply, we got some fractions. So you're going to need a 1 and a 1. So that's going to be 9 to the 5/2 times. And then when we multiply straight across, we're going to get negative 20/2 and positive 10/2. Right? Well, we can reduce the fractions or divide the fractions to x to the negative 10 and y to the positive 5, right? Because 2 goes into 20 negative 10 times, 2 goes into 10 5 times. Okay? No more parentheses. Next is negatives. We do have negatives, right? I do have negatives. I have negative power right there. What do I do to that guy so that it's not negative anymore? Move it to the bottom. How do I know it's the bottom? How do I know to move it to the bottom or the top? Well, there is no bottom right now, right? There's no bottom. It's just there's no fraction here. Well, if there's no fraction here, that means there's a 1 down there. So I can move that guy down there. So it's going to look like this. 9 to the 5/2 stays that way. Y to the 5th stays that way. And then x to the 10th power. Now it becomes positive 10 power. Okay. No more negative exponents. Same bases. Do I have the same base anywhere? Base is the big number. Well, let's see. I have a 9 as a base. Y as a base. And I have x as a base. Are any of those the same? Nope. So I can't do step 3. Okay. The last thing is simplify. Simplify. Here's where I can simplify. So this is what we did the last 2 days, right? This is the guy I can simplify here. So what I'm going to do by simplifying is see, right? The 5 on top is the power, the 2 is the base, or sorry, the root, right? So I'm going to rewrite this guy. 2 power, 2 root 5 power, right? That's what it means. Well, I have to see if I have any pairs, right? Square root means pairs. So I have to simplify that to see if I will have any pairs. Well, I have 9 times 9 times 9 times 9 times 9. I have 2 pairs of 9s. Right? I have this guy here and this guy here. So 2 pairs of 9s means I can take 2 9s out. And I'm going to have a 9 left over, right? Well, 9 times 9 is 81. Then what's the square root of 9? Doesn't 9 have a pair in it? 3, right? So now there's nothing left on the inside. So 81 times 3 is 243. That's what it simplifies to. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it back. 243, y to the 5th, x to the 10th. Now I'm done. Okay. So it's a combination of what we've been doing with the rules and what we did yesterday, right? And 2 days ago, this is what we did. It's kind of like how we did on the worksheet yesterday, like that. 72 to the 1/3, 12 to the 2/3. You did that yesterday on the worksheet. Well, that's exactly what we're going to be doing today. So it's really nothing new today. It's a combination of things that we've been doing before. Okay? All right, so let's look at letter B. Let's look at letter B. Same thing, simplify, right? So I have parentheses again. I have 3 things on the inside. I have 32, x negative 5, y to the 35 power. Each of those guys is going to get a power of 1/5. Negative 1/5, sorry. So 32 gets a negative 1/5. X to the negative 5 gets a negative 1/5. Y to the 35 gets a negative 1/5. Okay. I still have parentheses. So now what I have to do is I have to multiply, just like I did before, the powers. So I have 32 to the negative 1/5. Then I'm going to have x. You notice how both of these powers are negative. So when I multiply them, it's going to be positive. It's going to be positive 5/5, right? Positive 5/5 is the same thing as 1. Same thing over here. When I multiply these powers, it's going to be negative. Negative 35 divided by 5 makes negative 7. Okay. No more parentheses. Negative exponents. Yep, I got 1 here. And I got 1 here. Move them to the bottom. Right? There was no bottom before. It was just a 1, so now I'm going to move it down. X stays on top because X didn't have a negative exponent. 32 to the negative 1/5. and y to the 7th. Sorry, it becomes positive. Because when I move it down, it becomes positive. Bases, are any bases the same? I have x as a base, 32 as a base, 9 as a base. Nope. Last thing is see if I can simplify this guy here. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. So 32 to the 1/5. 32 to the 1/5 means 32 goes on the inside. The top, 1. Is 1 the power or 1 the root? Is 1 a power or is it a root? It's the power, right? So there's 132, and I'm looking for groups of 5. I'm looking for groups of 5. Well, there's only 132, so that doesn't work. But I can break down 32 to see if there's groups of 5 in there, 5 of a kind. 8 times 4, 4 times 2. I got a 2 here. I got 2 more 2s and 2 more over here. So 32 is the same thing as 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Looking for groups of 5. Turns out, yep, I got a group of 5. And when I got a group of 5, nothing's left over. It's just 2. That's what it simplifies to, just 2. So I'm going to take that and put it back. X on top. Now instead of 32 to the 1/5, that's just 2. Y to the 7th. You're done. Okay, you're done. So what I want you to do now is flip it over and do letter C. Flip it over and do letter C, the first one. Do that one. We'll go over it in a few minutes. Just give you time to work on that. Okay. So I distributed first. First thing I did was distribute everything gets a power on the inside. So 25 got a power, x to the 10th got a power, y to the 8th got a power. Multiply the powers. So I get 10 times 5, negative 5, which is negative 50, divided by 2 is negative 25. 8 times negative 5 is negative 40, divided by 2 is negative 20. They all have to move to the bottom since they all have negative exponents. So that means a 1 goes on top. And then since they all have different bases, I can't combine anything. And then 25 to the 5 over 2 meant the square root of 25 to the 5th power. So there was 5 25s. So I'm looking for pairs. So I got 1 pair, 2 pair. That leaves 25 inside. But then 25 has a square root, which is 5. So 625 times 5, you get 3,125. That takes the place. Okay. All right. So do letter D too. Do letter D. If you haven't already started, do letter D. Okay. So I haven't finished it, but give every power the 3/5 power. Okay. Multiply, multiply. And then I stopped here. So I have 3 32s. 3 32s. and I'm looking for groups of 5. Well, I don't have enough 32s. If I only have 3 of them and I'm looking for groups of 5, I don't have enough, right? But each of those 32s might have, so I got to break down 32. Okay. So I'm going to break down 32 over here. 8 times 4, 4 times 2, 2 times 2, 2 times 2. 32 has 5 2s. So if I have 3 32s, how many 2s am I going to have? 15. 15 2s. So it's really, I'm not going to write 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. I just have 15 2s. I'm looking for groups of 5. So how many groups of 5 do I have? 3. 3. So I have 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. Nothing left on the inside because that took them all. 3 groups of 5. I'm going to put it back now. I'm going to put that guy back for 32 to the 3/5. So now it's 8 y to the 9th, x to the 12th. Okay. All right. Okay, so now we have a couple more problems. These problems are a little different, and I'll tell you how they're a little different. Because we have to simplify, so we're still simplifying, but we have to finish our answer with a radical sign. So the first thing we have to do is change them to a radical. Okay, so just like we did on our notes on Monday. On Monday, we did notes, and we had 2 forms, right? One form has a radical, it's called radical form. One form had an exponent, it's called exponential form. Okay, right now we're over here. Right now we're in the one circle. That's the form we're in right now. We have to change it to this form over here. Okay, so the root, the bottom number goes here. The exponent, the top number goes here. That's the first thing we're going to do. Okay, so my question is, who has that power? Is it 243 and x, or is it just x? Just x, right? X is the only one that has that power. So 243 doesn't get, we don't have to change 243 to this. We don't have to do that. 243 is just hanging out on the outside. So 243 just hangs out on the outside. X, we're going to have to change. So we have 6 powers, 5 is the root. Okay. Well, with this guy here, we have to see what we can take out, right? I have, looking for groups of 5, and I have 6 of them. I have one group of 5, right? I have one group of 5. So x can come out. And then how many do I have left over? 1 that has to stay. So that's what I'm going to write. So what I'm going to write is 243, then times the, oops, no. And x came out, right? And x came out. But there was 1 x left over. There was 1 x left over. That guy couldn't come out. It has to stay. You can write times if you want. It's a little multiplication sign if you want. It's not, you don't need to do that, but you can if you want. Okay. All right. The second one should be letter B, but it's letter C. Both of them get the power, right? There's two things. There's 125 and there's an X. Now both of them get the power because I have parentheses, just like I did earlier. So 125 gets a 5/3 power. X gets a 5/3 power. So now I have to simplify both of them. So 3, 125 to the 5th power times 3x to the 5th power. Okay, so let me do this guy. Let me do 125 first. So 125, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 125s. And I'm looking for groups of 3. I can take out 125. And that leaves this in here, right? So I only have 2 of them. But 125 might have stuff in them, might have 5s in them, or 3s, groups of 3 in them. Okay? So the last thing I have to do for over here is check 125. I have to check out 125 to see if it's got any groups of 3. So 125 is 25 times 3, or 5. 25 times 5. And then 25 is 5 times 5. So each of those 125s has 3 5s. So how many 5s do I have? How many 5s am I going to, or 5s am I going to have? I'm going to have 3 for each, right? So 6. You can write them out. I'll write them out. Since this is the notes, I'll write them out. You don't have to write them out. A lot of you can do it in your head, but I'm going to write them out since it's the notes. So that means I can take out a 5 and another 5. So I have 125 times 5 times another 5. Which is 3,125. That's part of my answer. Now I have to do the other guy. This guy over here, which I haven't dealt with yet. So this guy over here has 5 x's. I'm looking for groups of 3. How many groups can I take out? One group, right? So I have x on the outside, and I have 2 left over, right? Those guys can't come out because I don't have a group of 3. That's as far as I can go. So what you're going to do is you're going to move that with your answer. And there you go. That's your total answer. I could take one group of 3 out, but then the other 2 have to stay. Okay. All right, let's try the last one now. Letter C. Okay. It's got parentheses. So I have x squared and 27 on the inside. So each of those guys is going to get a power. Still have parentheses. Oops. Okay. So now, let me break them down. 27. I have 127, and I'm looking for groups of 3. And then over here, I have 2 x's, x squared, and I'm looking for groups of 3. Well, 27. Let's break down 27. 9 times 3. 3 times 3. Well, I got a group of 3. So I can move these guys out. These guys over here, though, I only have 2 x's. I only have 2 x's. And I'm looking for groups of 3. I can't do anything about it. It stays. Put those together. You're done. As far as I can go. Okay. All right, so we got about 13 minutes or so. I'm going to give you one problem to do extra on your own. So wherever you're going to tape this into your notes, I'm going to give you one more problem to try. Here we go. This will be letter D. So simplify. Okay. One problem, that's it. Okay. Y to the 15th over 32x to the 30th. Distribute the powers, multiply the powers, move the negatives to the bottom. And then once you do that, you look to see if 16 to the 5/4, 4, looking for groups of 4. I have 5/16. I had a group of 4. And then I had 1/16 left over, but then that 16 had 4 2s, so I can take that out. That goes away, and I have 32. Okay. All right. Okay, so tape